Most people grow up believing that nations rise and fall because of elections, revolutions, or the decisions of powerful leaders. But the deeper you look into economic history, the more you find an unsettling truth. Your job prospects, your mortgage rate, your currency's value, your national debt, none of these were shaped in parliaments or presidential palaces. They were shaped in quiet rooms you will never enter. Rooms without voters, rooms without cameras, rooms filled not with politicians, but economists, analysts, and strategists. For the last century, the most important ideas governing the global economy, from interest rates to deregulation, from globalization to austerity, weren't born from public debate. They were manufactured by institutions with no democratic mandate, no electoral accountability, no obligation to reveal who funds them or why. Think tanks. Welcome to Financial Timeline, where money, power, and history collide, and nothing is ever as simple as it looks.
To understand how think tanks became the hidden architects of modern economics, we need to go back a century. It's the early 1900s. World War I has ended. The global financial system is unsteady. Governments are overwhelmed by problems they don't know how to solve. Back then, most governments had no in-house economists, no research divisions, no policy modeling teams, no experts analyzing taxes, trade, debt, or productivity. There was a vacuum, and in 1916, a small group in Washington stepped in to fill it.
Brookings Institution, 1916. On the surface, it looked academic. But behind the scenes, Brookings was plugged directly into national decision-making. Its reports shaped federal budgeting, wartime production, early monetary policy. Brookings created a new model, private expertise guiding public policy. And soon, the model spread. Chatham House, 1920. Across the Atlantic, Britain founded the Royal Institute of International Affairs, a place where politicians, diplomats, bankers, and scholars met behind closed doors. It became a bridge between British elites and the emerging world of geopolitical economics. And then came the institution that changed everything. Founded in 1948, RAND was unlike anything before it. It combined military intelligence, academia, early computers, economic forecasting, Cold War strategy. RAND didn't study policy, it engineered it. Nuclear strategy, game theory, behavioral research, economic modeling, foreign policy doctrine. RAND became the blueprint for every major think tank that followed. By the 1970s, think tanks weren't academic institutions anymore. They were the intellectual infrastructure of global power. By the late 20th century, think tanks were everywhere. Brookings, Hoover, Carnegie, Council on Foreign Relations, American Enterprise Institute, Cato Institute, Peterson Institute, Heritage Foundation. Different ideologies, different donors, one goal: shape the ideas that shape the world. And here's the key to understanding them. Politicians come and go. Think tanks do not. Governments change every few years. Think tanks persist for decades, shaping what leaders believe is possible or inevitable.
Think tanks don't operate in a vacuum. They are funded heavily by billionaire philanthropists, Wall Street banks, energy giants, defense contractors, multinational corporations, global foundations, and governments. Donors don't need to give instructions. Influence doesn't require orders, only alignment. Think tanks produce the ideas that their funders already want to see, and those ideas become common sense inside government. This is why the 1980s produced a tsunami of reports promoting deregulation, tax cuts for capital, privatization, financial liberalization.
Not because it was inevitable, because it was strategically engineered. Think tanks don't just influence politicians. They influence you, directly. Their ideas shape your mortgage rate, your cost of living, your job market, your savings, your retirement, the price of your food, fuel, and medicine. When think tanks warn about inflation, markets react. When they call for austerity, governments cut budgets. When they push deregulation, banks take more risks. When they support globalization, industries shift across borders. Think tanks set the emotional temperature of the financial world, and they don't need votes to do it. Their power is built on something far stronger: credibility. By the 1990s, think tanks were inside the machinery of governance. They supplied White House advisors, Treasury officials, central bank staff, World Bank economists, IMF negotiators, trade deal architects. The revolving door wasn't corruption. It was the operating system of modern power. The same people cycle through: Goldman Sachs, Brookings, Treasury, Chicago School, IMF, Heritage, Rand, Pentagon, CFR. The result? Ideological continuity. Governments change, policies don't.
A single report from a respected think tank can move markets, shift interest rate expectations, influence central banks, shape headlines, set political priorities, fuel national debates. A report becomes a headline becomes a talking point becomes a policy becomes your reality. This is modern economic power, the ability to turn analysis into expectation and expectation into reality.
But the most powerful think tanks aren't the ones on TV. They're the ones writing classified briefings, advising intelligence agencies, shaping G7 and G20 agendas, embedded inside global institutions like the IMF, World Bank, and BIS. These organizations don't seek publicity. Their influence is behind the curtain and far more powerful than elected governments.
The world is not shaped by the clash of left versus right. It is shaped by the clash of ideas. Ideas refined, tested, packaged, and distributed by institutions the public never elected. Think tanks are the factories where those ideas are built. And if you don't understand who writes the frameworks of the global economy, you will always be reacting to the world instead of anticipating it. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.